There are many regrets in one's life. 1 hates the death of Marquis Wu, 2 hates the loss of chastity of the Dragon Maiden, 3 hates the continuation of the Diao in the Red Chamber, and 4 hates the death of the Snow Moon husband. Therefore, tearing open the dimensional wall, changing Zhao Yuzhen's fate, and continuing the fate of Li Hanyi. With nuclear energy, the young man who had been released from the suffering of 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 the. You can also stir up the wind and clouds, that's so clever. Just huddle in the mountains and farm. No way. The little fairy is still waiting for me at the foot of the mountain. I am Zhao Yuzhen, the sword fairy of Qingcheng Mountain Path, Rice. Chapter 1. Greening of Einstein's Equator. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. A huge steel pipe spanning 45 degrees north latitude is about 30,000 kilometers long, obliquely encircling an irregular sphere with slightly flattened poles and slightly bulging equator. A metal ring worth trillions of dollars has now been requisitioned by various types of cars as an entertainment venue. Accelerating within this Einstein equator, looking at the equidistant confinement hoops around, from still clearly visible acceleration to seemingly skipping frames, the driver experiences a sense of pleasure hidden beneath DNA. As the largest particle accelerator product ever built by humans, it still neglects its duties, and undertakes the function of traveling around the world. In theory, the particle propelled by the maximum energy in Einstein's equator is equivalent to the energy released by a nuclear bomb used to accelerate the particle. It can travel around the world in 1/10 of a second. Of course, using hydrocarbon liquid fuel to propel Iron King Ba would take about 60 days. It's really beautiful, Professor Ding Yi said, like Venus headband. Ha ha ha, Teacher Ding, is Venus in your eyes the irregular ellipsoid under our feet? Ding Yi's proud student Qin Ning burst into laughter. Stay in awe, Qin, this ellipsoid provides you with a stage to pursue the beauty of truth, and also gives birth to various giant shoulders for you to rely on. Ding Yi maintained an elegant smile. Qin Ning tidied up her playful smile and began listening to Ding Yi's preaching. In the 15th century, Descartes used his invented instrument, the coordinate system, to bridge the gap between geometry and algebra. He made it known to everyone that the peach heart shape, which represents love, can also be expressed in numbers and symbols. Ding Yi spoke confidently. In the 16th century, Euler unified the most unique irrational numbers in nature, rational numbers, as well as real and imaginary numbers, using an equation. This created the most beautiful mathematical formula. The previous Sir Newton, the later Maxwell, and even more recent giants such as Dr. Einstein, Mr. Hawking, and Yang Zhenning have already completed the construction of the physics building. Ding Yi paused for a moment, feeling as if she was trying her best to calm her emotions. And tomorrow, we can personally use Einstein's equator to shatter those 2 dark clouds. Bomb it. Ding Yi repeated to herself. Yeah, to continue learning from the Holy Spirit. The historical legacy of the dark clouds on the building, it's our turn to easily eliminate it. Qin Ning also became excited, giving rise to an involuntary sense of heroism. But it was soon extinguished by his teacher again. Stay in awe, Qin, we are just standing on the shoulders of giants, that's why we can see further. Ding Yi completely disregarded the teacher-student relationship and maintained the most noble yet uninteresting quality in scientific research. Calm, meticulous like a machine, without any hint of fireworks. Teacher Ding, you're almost turning science into religion, Qin Ning said in silence. There's something I've been wanting to say to you for a long time. Ding Yi's calmness seemed to loosen and he said helplessly to his students, physics has occupied most of my heart, and no matter how hard I try, I can only free up a little space for my family, let alone you. You can see how small this space is, so small that even Professor Ding, who is rigorous, used too little. But I still don't agree with using religion to explain science. Professor Ding regained his composure and rigor. The charm of science is that it allows for questioning, like the Einstein circle, where we are all inside and that circle is science, separating known and unknown. We break through the known radius, making the radius of the circle longer, and the unknown that the circle comes into contact with also increases. It's like a priest who asks, "Do you believe in Jesus?" to everyone on the road. Qi Ning stuck out her tongue and said to her peers, "Perhaps after dispelling the dark clouds, we can face the Creator directly and reveal who generated the first force after the Big Bang." Ding Yi breathed quickly. After all, Sir Newton later turned to theology to explore the universe in a state of static equilibrium, who gave the first force to transform into a mechanically dynamic equilibrium universe. "Yes, teacher." Qi Ning was also infected, and suddenly he seemed to remember something. He stuttered and said to Ding Yi, "Teacher, will Brother Zhao also participate tomorrow?" Ding Yi frowned and said sternly, "What's wrong?" "No, it's just that Zhao Jr. brother." Qi Ning seemed to be trying to say, "He has a relatively good reputation." "A bad reputation?" A bad reputation. Has his personal style deviated?" Ding Yi eased slightly. After all, Madame Curie also had some rumors of romance. No, that's not the case." Qi Ning was a bit hesitant and said, "Zhao Jr. brother's reputation was created by his aura of misfortune, mainly because he is quite mystical and feels like a crow has cast spells on him. In the space he is in, with him at the center, misfortune will radiate in all directions. The people affected and himself will tilt towards the bad side no matter what they do, ignoring Murphy's law. It's simply unreasonable." "Is there such a miracle?" Ding Yi was very curious. "So what he brought about, is there a correlation between the radius of the misfortune field and the attenuation of field strength?" Ding Yi's rigor surged like a tide. "There are signs of negative correlation, but the attenuation is not significant. We don't have enough space, and other junior brothers are also unwilling to use ourselves as a control group." Qi Ning scratched her head awkwardly. "A theory that cannot be proven or falsified should be questioned for now. After all, Einstein's achievements on the equator belong to all humanity, and at that time, 7 billion people will be watching, debugging, and simulating millions of experiments. It's not like it's just one student." Ding Yi said solemnly and paused for a moment. "He really is that unscientific. The extracted elemental silicon is not as real," Qi Ning swore confidently. "I doubt how he survived and grew up." "Then let's place him a little further away from the accelerator." Ding Yi made a seemingly less rigorous decision. The next day, in the dormitory. "Zhao Jr. brother, prepare. The dark clouds are about to be blown away by the sight of our own eyes." Qi Ning held a clothes pole and poked Zhao Jr. brother from a distance, who was sitting listlessly in a chair. Zhao Jr. brother turned around and glanced at him. "Let's just forget about it. In case it collapses then." "Stop." Qi Ning stood up the clothes drying pole and said, "Teacher Ding said that the result is shared by all mankind, not just you. I'll go over and prepare first." After saying this, he turned around and left, but unfortunately, the newly erected clothes drying pole slid down the wall and turned around. At least Qi Ning had rich experience in getting along with his junior brother. He immediately propped up his hands and stood up again. With a lack of confidence, he said, "Hurry up too." Junior brother Zhao straightened his head and let out a big sigh. Einstein Equator Control Room. Various screens are flickering, various signal lights are echoing each other, and various information is being conveyed with respect to Shannon's theorem. Professor Ding stood in front of the control panel, silently listening to the countdown. At this moment, his mood should be similar to that of the Miss Chiu that ignited in Huagua. It's the same. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding Yi held her breath and pressed the tacky red button in front of her. A ball the size of a lead shot appeared at the internal launch site of Einstein's equator. Its volume was slowly expanding, and all humanity was silent, as if everything was advancing in an orderly and eerie manner. Suddenly, a needle-shaped synapse arched over the sphere. Ding Yi turned around and shouted at the body of the console, "Run! Children! Run!" I saw that the needle-like synapse seemed to pierce through the dark red that originally covered the surface of the sphere from the inside, shining with a light even brighter than the sun. That light seemed like ink spilled on rice paper, spreading all around. After hearing the words, "Children run fast," Zhao Shiti suddenly remembered that the speed of light was much faster than the speed of sound, and his consciousness was still there. However, light seemed to be covering his neck below. He struggled to lower his head and found that his body was like scattered egg yolk, quantized and entangled with the surrounding egg white. That kind of light or energy. After an unknown amount of time, it seemed like someone had helped him change his perspective, as if his eyes had been removed and remained in their original function before hanging in mid-air. From his current perspective, he witnessed with his own eyes that his head seemed to be protected by a transparent membrane, but still could not resist the erosion of light, gradually being photochemical, like weathering. Ironically, he remembered a line from a certain humanoid giant extraterrestrial creature image work that Qin Ning had told him. "Do you believe in light? So nah, isn't it my pot again?" The consciousness merged into the message of Zhao Jr. brothers passing before the light. The explosion lasted for less than 10 seconds, and a circle around Einstein's equator was fiercely evaporated by nuclear energy. From space, a ferocious wound could be seen as if it was about to obliquely split open the ellipsoid at a 45-degree angle. In an instant, flowers and green grass began to grow in Einstein's equatorial canyon, and those who survived seemed to hear a conversation in the canyon. Strange and complex voice. "Are you satisfied?" Professor Ding Yi said, "If you hear the Tao in the morning, you may die in the evening." Chapter 2, Is Your Name Zhao Yuzhen? You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The vast and dark space is like a cold universe, where any point is within the central infinite dimension. Creatures cannot live alone. A wave of consciousness rises and falls, as if mechanically completing a task, muttering and stubbornly declaring their existence. I probably can't get rid of all the difficulties in my life. Since the environment in my nasal cavity changed from amniotic fluid to air, misfortunes of all sizes have been lingering around me, from being bitten by a neighbor's pet dog when the rabies vaccine was out of stock. From driving a tram, the car suddenly flew and spun in mid-air for 3.5 weeks, ultimately causing a comminuted fracture of my whole body. According to my mother, when she was pregnant with me, she dreamed of a phoenix perching on a wudong tree. When I was born, she named me Zhao Fengwu. I think it was because of her poor performance. With a weak life and a humble status, where could she bear such a big name? "Huan Fengwu," I said, "if you had a little deviation in your dream and dreamed that a chicken flew to a banana tree, I would die after puberty. Besides, since my name is Zhao Fengwu, it hasn't been much better. I've been choking on milk, forgetting to wear diapers, and wetting the bed on the electric blanket. It's really exciting." After the age of 3.5, my parents realized that the situation was not quite right and began to ask the Buddha what Buddhist ritual vessels and Taoist scriptures were being brought home one by one. Therefore, since I was young, I have not lacked jewelry, Buddha beads, nor have I lacked reading scriptures. Oh, that thing is incredibly obscure. I'm still a child, how could I possibly understand it? At the age of 5 or 6, my parents feel that we need to use some feudal means to change our luck. The name Zhao Fengwu is not very good and affects our lives. We need to change it to something more auspicious. Most families who claim to have a scholarly background tend to flatter their predecessors, following the principles of Women's Book of Songs, Men's Chu Ci, Wen Luan Yu, and Wu Zhou Yi. They extract a character for Yu from the 6 arts of the Analects and a character for Zhen from the Qian Gua and Yuan Hengli Zhen of the Book of Changes. I hope I can be both civil and military, and also manage good luck. So after the age of 6, I changed my name to Zhao Yuzhen. I don't know how my parents are doing now. Have they kept the same education they used to give me? Don't join in the fun, don't cause trouble for others. The wave frequency seemed to have shed its mechanical rigidity and began to mix with a bit of human frustration. I miss you so much. The specific relatives who can hold hands are much more admirable than the macro narrative of shattering dark clouds. I still have a golden body that hasn't been broken, and I have been practicing pure young boy skills for over 20 years. Hey! It's so useless. A soft smile of Puai and Gongxian came, refreshing like a spring that does not freeze in the 12th lunar month, flowing lightly in the cold forest. Who? Zhao Yuzhen's tone suddenly increased. Are you a human or a ghost? Get out. Then he seemed to have a sudden realization. This really embarrasses materialism. I am a staunch materialist. The clear mountain spring resounded again, huh? Materialism. What kind of martial arts is it? Please, you're talking like a motorcycle, Zhao Yuzhen replied irritably. First of all, who are you? When did you appear? The child voice seemed embarrassed and said, I, Zhao Yuzhen, from Qingcheng Mountain, woke up when you said, Fengwu. Zhao Yuzhen's sound wave was shocked and turned pale. What? Does that mean you've heard everything behind you? Are you sure we're dead? Wait a moment, your TM name is Zhao Yuzhen. Who am I? Maybe you've heard all the names of the Sanjia family, and then come to entertain Sanjia. That Zhao Yuzhen said, no, the path is Zhao Yuzhen, the sword fairy of Qingcheng Mountain Path. Yuzhen is different from your 6 arts emperor, Yuan Heng Liz Hen. Zhao Yuzhen thought for a moment and said, sword immortal. It's quite romantic. In our village, there used to be a person named Li Bai, who was also an immortal. He was so romantic. The taste of hero history is too strong. Wait, Zhao Yuzhen, the sword immortal of Qingcheng Mountain Path. Zhao Yuzhen suddenly realized. Are you the one with the jade body lying horizontally on it? Is the photo album really true? Your Excellency's speech is quite witty. Jade is indeed that jade, but I have never heard of the term photography, Zhao Yuzhen chuckled. It's true, false, true. Well, it's true. Xena, does it mean that you are really the 2-spined ape creature, Zhao Yuzhen from The Song of Youth? Have I traveled to your world? Or have you worn into our world? Is it Zhuangzhou dreaming of a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming of Zhuangzhou? Juvenile singing. If the word crossing is understood correctly by the path, you should belong to Tianweishan society. You crossed to Qingcheng Mountain with high skill, but only left the spirit after exhausting your internal skills. It happened that the path's body was captured and locked in the path's body. You and I share one body, one elixir field, and one sea awareness. Upon hearing unfamiliar professional terms, Zhao Yuzhen felt a headache and could only handle it. Well, that's it. Can you make a lamp or something? Let's have a long conversation by candlelight. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent, and then a green halo lit up in the space. A young man with a jade-like face and dressed in a blue Taoist robe appeared in front of Zhao Yuzhen, saying, Your Excellency and I share a sea of consciousness. Your Excellency has some thoughts in mind, and with your consent, they can be manifested and shared with me in the sea of consciousness. Zhao Yuzhen tried hard to recall the way she looked in the mirror, but suddenly a dazzling array of colors emerged from her body, dazzling like the atmosphere lights of a disco bar, covering up Zhao Yuzhen's original appearance tightly. That light shines brightly on the entire sea of consciousness. What's going on? Zhao Yuzhen asked, Why are you just beautiful skin and I'm just light pollution? Zhao Yuzhen touched Zhao Yuzhen's light with his hand, thought for a moment, and replied, Your Excellency, this layer is very powerful protection. It seems that the real qi is solidified, but it is also stronger than the real qi. It seems that a ray of it is as heavy as Mount Taishan Mountain, like an iceberg, and it is difficult to melt. It is not possible to break it by throwing 1,000 pounds at it. Unfortunately, the path almost disappears from the path, and its strength is not enough to break the chance. Zhao Yuzhen pondered for a moment. Have you ever met me, Your Excellency? He asked. Zhao Yuzhen was taken aback for a moment. I know, not just that. The young Taoist in front of me, who is full of spirit and handsome, is just a TM. Your name is Zhao Yuzhen. In his world, there is a gathering place for two-spined apes, but it is a well-known two-dimensional creature, a famous paper husband, and it is also because Zhao Yuzhen himself is cheap and likes to search for keywords with the same name or sound as him. According to quantum entanglement and Maxwell's square program, an electron will generate mirror motion in different spaces. This Zhao Yuzhen can't be just a mirror image of Zhao Yuzhen in 2D, right? Indeed, homophonic memes not only deduct money, but also harm life. Zhao Yuzhen. Powerful, elegant, and charming. Zhao Yuzhen. Salted fish, decadent, a tool for relieving misfortune. No matter how you look at it, it's a complete defeat. Zhao Yuzhen awkwardly smiled and played with a playful hand, saying, a true cicada is not a cicada, but a fake jade is a stone. You are such a good jade. The strokes are even simplified, and the meaning returns to simplicity, with a charm of simplicity and simplicity. Unlike some Yuzhen, they are difficult to write and not good-looking. Zhao Yuzhen looked at Zhao Yuzhen's divine skill with suspicion and said, what kind of Zen? Are you a disciple of Buddhism? However, that line of the Great Way and the simplicity seems to contain the truth of our Taoism, so it should be considered as your erroneous praise. Zhao Yuzhen immediately said solemnly, no, I, as a materialist warrior, don't like any kind of religion the most. As for this. Zhao Yuzhen shook her hand. After all, the atmosphere has come up, and it's hard to justify not jumping a few times. Materialism. What is it? Why do you dislike religion so much? Simply put, it is the relationship between matter and consciousness, whether matter determines consciousness or consciousness determines matter. Oh, that little path is clear. It's like seeing peaches after eating them, and then imagining the taste of peaches. Before eating peaches, the taste of peaches cannot be imagined out of thin air. Your statement is so novel. The path seems to have a flash of inspiration, but it's fleeting and can't capture that inspiration. Zhao Yuzhen's green robe became even more vibrant. Undoubtedly, the Tao's heart is clear, and the sword's heart is clear. So, why don't you like teaching? Zhao Yuzhen asked again. Don't be such a petty person, are you tired? Zhao Yuzhen was about to say, call me Yuzhen, but suddenly realized that these two words couldn't clearly refer to which one. Simply say, let's make it easier for you and me to match. Okay, but the opposite of materialism is idealism, and idealism and materialism cannot be reconciled. However, freedom of liking and hating, as well as freedom of faith. Otherwise, it is a double standard. This is the opening preaching mode from the outside world. By the way, let's talk about your situation. What's wrong with you? Xiao Dao. Are you tired of it? My masters all say that I am not suitable to go down the mountain. After going down, it will stir up the wind and clouds, resulting in bad consequences. This is too idealistic. So what? Are you still going down the mountain? Well, the demon sect went on an expedition, but it didn't succeed. I was stopped by the way of Qingcheng Mountain, and they made a detour. I also wanted to look outside. However, maybe Daozu didn't agree with me to go down the mountain. He used the sky thunder to persuade me, but the force of the exhortation was a little strong. He almost killed my spirit. You're even more idealistic. And then what? Why would I achieve symbiosis with you? Because Xiao Dao. Because of my body, I am born with a Taoist body, which is highly attractive to the essence and soul of the primordial spirit, and has a strong restraining power. This restraining power is relatively excellent when the primordial spirit is full, and I am not afraid of various soul-sucking and soul-grabbing methods. However, when the primordial spirit is dry, he will supplement it in a more alternative way, such as passing by you. Do you mean, I was your body grabbing me to replenish your energy? Please rest assured that I will never engage in such evil and heretical behavior. Besides, you carry a heavy weight of power that I cannot seize. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent at the same time. After a while, Zhao Yuzhen said, "What are your plans next?" Zhao Yuzhen spoke earnestly, "I am unable to drive this body for now. Please help me recover." Zhao Yuzhen fell silent for an instant. "You have recovered, but what about me? Will it fly to ashes?" Zhao Yuzhen was stunned for a moment and said, "I will do my best to help you find a way out." The sword heart is clear, and Zhao Yuzhen believes that what Zhao Yuzhen said is from the heart. But is it worth believing that there are other, foreign objects, in the body that are not exclusive to the opposite sex? Wait, it seems that Zhao Yuzhen is the foreign object of this body. After thinking about it, Zhao Yuzhen smiled sadly and said, "Okay, I am the tool man. I told you in advance that I am a Shire T. In order to ensure the safety of you, me, and the rest of the world, I will not join in the fun and look for opportunities. Maybe I can only stay in Qingcheng Mountain quietly and wait for you to recover, and gamble on whether to disappear or to rise again. Shai, you are indeed a disciple of Buddhism. What I mean is to release bad luck, which will affect others' luck. You're so idealistic. You don't understand, it's called dialectical treatment. In my hometown, there are only things that have already been materialized and things that will be materialized. And I am the Shai body, which belongs to the material that will be materialized. Okay, you're strong. Whatever you say is right. Undoubtedly, the face-changing masters of the same sect as Yu Tsanghai, no, can we call it face-changing when the Dao Xin is clear? I've traveled through time and shared a body with Grandpa Golden Finger. There probably isn't anyone left, Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly as Grandpa Huang collapsed. It's done, I've become a double. Chapter 3. Fortune and Misfortune, Emptiness and Vulgarity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hey, how old are you this year? Zhao Yuzhen got bored and continued chatting with Zhao Yuzhen in Shanghai. Just reached the point of tying her hair, Zhao Yuzhen replied. Oh no, at the age of 15, I could become a million master with just one sword, which changed the way of the demon cult. When I was your age, I probably was still struggling in high school. High school. Too young. No, that's equivalent to our university over there. High school was before the college entrance exam. Yes, at my age, should be waiting for Chiuwei in a private school. Don't be petty, I'm older than you. In the future, you'll call me Lao Zhao, and I'll call you Xiao Zhao. Unfortunately, I came late. If I had come earlier, I could have seen the scene of Xiao Zhao Jianxian admonishing Yi Dingji. That's a famous scene that my family has performed beautifully on. So, Lao Zhao, do you still feel like you're at a loss? Zhao Yuzhen readily accepted the suggestion of this title. But facing the army directly is not a blessing, and your family also knows me. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse. In our world, you are one dimension lower than us. That is to say, using the concrete things in our world can express the abstract things in your world. For example, time in your world, in our place, the concrete becomes thick. How to say it? For example, you are like a paper figure on my side. In the first breath, you are a painting, and in the second breath, you are also a painting. When you stack two paintings, it is equivalent to you doing an action in this breath. And your breath, on my end, is the thickness of two sheets of paper. But you, Xiao Zhao Jianxian, do have a bit of fame, although it can be understood, it is still difficult to retell. Does it mean that I am in your outer world, a series of moving paintings? Or is it equivalent to living in a world of tea shops and storytellers? My name is not Tian Weishan, thank you. I have nothing to do with Yi Dingji, Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly. Yes, you can understand it that way. Now that it's okay, I'm also a painter. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent and then asked, how did the storytellers over there pass it on to me? What do you think of me? Storyteller. Zhao Yuzhen took several seconds to realize that this was the code name for the two-spined ape that Zhao Yuzhen understood. It was actually a 15-year-old boy, childish and eager to know how others evaluated him. Let me tell you, I understand so well that I can recite the plot of your place like a flow of water. Our little Zhao sword immortal will become one of the 5 famous sword immortals in the future. Did I go down the mountain? It's down. What about the back? Later. Zhao Yuzhen abruptly stopped, later, I forgot. Hee. Deception. The gentle 15-year-old boy grinned and approached with a smile like a willow wind. You clearly said you came backwards like a stream. Hee, we can't use spoilers. In short, we can't disrupt the timeline in the form of spoilers, otherwise we will be caught by the Time Management Bureau. We need to maintain a sense of mystery. Zhao Yuzhen smiled politely but awkwardly, anyway, your kung fu, along with my prophets, are both golden finger masters. Isn't that rampant and flourishing in this world? It seems that something has come to mind. Zhao Yuzhen murmured. No, I'm a relief physique. I'd better stay in Qingcheng Mountain and take a closer look. What is your situation? Perhaps I can solve it after becoming a celestial teacher. Zhao Yuzhen gradually accepted the existence of this roommate. Zhao Yuzhen embodied a reclining chair, with a brilliant body lying on it, and said, you're 2 against your will, let alone you're still 2-dimensional and can't handle 3-dimensional things. Zhao Yuzhen silently looked at this guy's unfamiliar lying apparatus, which also resembled a cattail ball. Sitting on it, she spoke, we've been together for so long, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Besides, your glamorous body seems to have a miraculous effect, isolating you tightly. If it weren't for you talking to yourself in my sea of knowledge, I wouldn't have noticed your existence. This brilliance seems to be able to block the misfortune you release. So, what are these lights? Zhao Yuzhen turned her body to the side. I don't know, have you ever been exposed to any mysterious energy before you came? Zhao Yuzhen asked in response. Unscrutable energy. Zhao Yuzhen immediately sat up and patted her thigh. Suddenly, she gasped for breath and said in a low and excited voice, yes, the nucleus. The unified model of the universe. Is on me. Zhao Yuzhen raised her hands in front of her and looked at the shining hands. Energy cannot be generated or disappear out of thin air. The energy generated at that time pierced through the space I was in, and my sense of relief turned things upside down. Is it worse than concentrating all the energy on me? Then he raised his head and said to Zhao Yuzhen, this model has opened up 2 and 3 dimensions. Maybe in the future, there will be an opportunity to use this energy from your understanding of the sea. Then he gave Zhao Yuzhen a punch. Seeing Zhao Yuzhen in such a state, Zhao Yuzhen smiled and said, fortune lies in misfortune, and fortune lies in misfortune. Although I don't understand what you're saying, I feel like you've understood. Congratulations. Cheers up, Zhao Yuzhen withdrew her fist. Due to being plagued by misfortune, she summoned this unified model of the universe and was even beaten to the next dimension. However, you are right. Buddhism has also said that color is emptiness, emptiness is color, color does not differ from emptiness, and emptiness does not differ from color. Zhao Yuzhen looked at his bald head, which was covered by guanghua and couldn't see his hairstyle, and agreed to interrupt, you said you're not a monk. You fart. Let me finish speaking, Zhao Yuzhen said. Taoism says disaster and good fortune depend on each other, Buddhism says the transformation of color and space, and Confucianism says the appreciation of both refined and popular. This is called contradiction theory in my family. The conflicting parties are interdependent, mutually dependent, and together exist in a unified whole, capable of mutual transformation under certain conditions. After Zhao Yuzhen finished speaking, Zhao Yuzhen was as shocked as hearing Hong Zhong in the LV. Your remarks make me feel like I'm facing the road directly. I saw Zhao Yuzhen's image of the sea, with a green Taoist robe and emerald radiance soaring, as if there was a popping sound as he unlocked the lock. I am free with shackles, free to do as I please. It seems like I have entered the realm of great freedom. Clam. Zhao Yuzhen was taken aback for a moment, feeling that the space was like the wind pouring into a cave, with wind pressure overflowing. However, the radiance around her was like a pillar in the surging waves, standing still. Zhao Yuzhen truly deserves the clarity of the Tao heart and the clarity of the sword heart. This contradictory theory runs through the three religions of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Misfortune, fortune, emptiness, vulgarity, and elegance. The three religions have different paths and come together. Thank you very much. Well, Lao Zhao, this kind of method that fits the Tao cannot be passed down to the 6 ears. Zhao Yuzhen, whose face was covered in radiance, gave a sinister smile in the light curtain and said, wrong, this kind of thing can not only spread to 6 ears in our family, but also be learned by everyone. It has become a well-known principle. Zhao Yuzhen was taken aback and said, such a highly summarizing principle is surprisingly popular among the general public. Isn't your family like a cloud of experts? No, Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly, contradiction is materialistic, and there is no such idealistic thing as the master you speak of in our family. Zhao Yuzhen was feeling melancholic and passed away for a moment, saying, I suddenly became curious about your family. What kind of blessed land is it to be able to raise someone as interesting as you, Lao Zhao? Let me tell you, our family. Zhao Yuzhen's excitement was dampened as if she had thought of something. Forget it, it's nothing, I can't even go back. Not necessarily, I have entered the realm of great freedom, said the young man in a clear Taoist robe. I have a new understanding of the Tao. Wufu 8th rank, Vajra realm, free land realm, leisure heaven realm, divine wandering mysterious realm. Can you break the rules written by Ji Ruofeng of the Baishao Hall? Zhao Yuzhen said angrily. No, but you can, Zhao Yuzhen said seriously. What does it mean? The Great Way is 50, and the heavens extend 4 or 9. People avoid one of them. Zhao Yuzhen explained, the way of heaven is to make up for the shortcomings when there is excess. The way of people is not the same, and the losses are not enough to bring in excess. I guess if you encounter atmospheric luck, you will absorb the opponent's misfortune and strengthen their qi. Zhao Yuzhen pondered whether Professor Ding was a meteorologist. The Einstein Equator project, which was supposed to be destroyed, was approved by him after he joined his team. However, upon reflection, aren't meteorologists facing that destructive power? What Zhao Yuzhen didn't expect was that after destroying the sky and earth, Professor Ding happily said, if you hear the Tao in the morning, you can die in the evening. You should be that Dunyi, said Dao Jianxian with a restrained smile. Just a few words, picking out the essence of the obscure truth, can make me realize it directly. You are too idealistic, I don't accept it. What kind of bullshit am I? It's a matter of returning to heaven, Zhao Yuzhen argued with reason. Do you know when I should enter the carefree realm? Zhao Yuzhen asked in reverse. 16. The two spoke in unison. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent, but Zhao Yuzhen awkwardly smiled and said, didn't I know in advance? I'm getting my hair tied now. It seems like I've reached a bottleneck, and going further should have required the convergence of the three religions to perhaps break through. I didn't belong to this world, but I still broke into it. In the dark, I have my own destiny. Stop, idealistic words cannot be proven. They cannot convince me. It can't be falsified, can it? Are you powerful in this carefree realm? Zhao Yuzhen asked helplessly. Zhao Yuzhen glanced at the bright light and said, I can't beat your strange and powerful energy. Nonsense, if I hit you, it's called dimensionality reduction strike, if you hit me, it's called coaxing filial piety. What I'm asking is if you hit other people in this world. I can't beat it, I can't make this number. Zhao Yuzhen raised a jade-colored hand. Ranked 6th, Zhao Yuzhen said, pulling his butt. My master LV Su really can't fight, we need to respect our teachers and uphold our principles. Zhao Yuzhen pressed down one finger and without saying a whole sentence, he was interrupted. Stop and stop, why don't you count the whole Qingcheng Mountain? It's different, I can still fight the younger generation. 9 songs. Zhao Yuzhen coldly said the name of a sword. Luo Qingyang. Zhao Yuzhen frowned, I'm younger than him. If you can't fight, then you can't fight. It's still so gentle. What I mean is, within 30,000 square meters, I'm barely able to do it, but beyond 30,000, my physical strength is better than him. Can you run away when you meet him? Okay, but... No need, but just run away. Isn't that just a rising tide? Zhao Yuzhen concretely presented 2 tall glasses filled with half-full champagne, thought for a moment, and then concretely presented a recliner. He handed Zhao Yuzhen a tall glass and ordered the recliner. At home, please indulge yourself a little. Zhao Yuzhen took the cup, not knowing why. I'll wait for you to cut through this mess of misfortune on me with one sword. Cheers. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent as the 2 of them touched their wine glasses. How does it taste? Lao Zhao, you have to eat peaches before you can imagine the taste of peaches. I drink this as a glass of clear water. Mistake. By the way, how much longer does this body need to wake up? Zhao Yuzhen pinched her fingers and said, shouldn't it be? Originally, there were only 3 hours left, but after an epiphany, there were still 12 hours left. After speaking, she looked at Zhao Yuzhen. Zhao Yuzhen quickly pretended to deal with the liquid in the cup. How can I know if the unified model can perfectly defend against the aura of misfortune? Chapter 4. Master, I won't practice swordsmanship anymore. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After enduring the long journey of the earthly branches, Zhao Yuzhen finally opened her eyes. My gaze touched this world for the first time, with an antique and vibrant atmosphere. The bamboo mat was cool, and the jade pillow pressed against my head. Zhao Yuzhen flipped over and sat up, shaking off the swelling of her mind caused by a prolonged coma. The sunlight outside the window was shining, and the trees were lush. The chirping of birds gave Zhao Yuzhen a sense of tranquility and coolness. I don't know if it's the bird-singing mountain is even more secluded or the world is secluded in Qingcheng. I wanted to get up and open the window to embrace the beautiful mountains and waters, but I didn't know that I hadn't stepped on the hard ground for too long, which gave Zhao Yuzhen a sense of imbalance. Stumbling for a moment, it must be said that Zhao Jianxian's body did indeed belong to the first tier. After the lightning strike, he fainted and remained lively. After thinking about it, Zhao Yuzhen bounced hard and felt the warmth of the solid ground. Zhao Yuzhen opened the screen window and exclaimed. If you don't die in a disaster, you will be lucky. This Qingcheng Mountain is really beautiful. If you leave my hometown, you can't charge him a ticket of 10 or 8 yuan. Qingcheng Mountain is a sect, not a ticket. Little Zhao Jianxian's voice came into his mind, and Zhao Yuzhen was shocked. It scared me to death. I said, Zhao Jianxian, can you pretend to cough before speaking? Little Zhao Jianxian hasn't finished speaking yet. With a clang, a young Taoist startled the copper basin he was carrying and immediately shouted, Junior uncle, come back to life. Junior uncle, go crazy, talk to the air. This is Chen Yendu, the nephew of Chen Shi. He should have been sent to take care of me after I fell unconscious, Lao Zhao. Actually, you don't need to say anything, just silently recite in your heart. I can also hear him. Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly, please calm him down first, otherwise we won't be able to find peace. Is this half-big kid your nephew? He's not much different from you, is he? Zhao Yuzhen murmured to Chen Yendu about 12 or 13 times. Immediately, he flipped through the window and covered Chen Yendu's mouth as he planned to shout again. Yendu nephew, stop shouting. Your Yuzhen martial uncle is fine and has no problems. If you shout again, you have a responsibility to call those old cow noses over. Do you understand? Just nod if you understand. Chen Yendu thought to himself. If Master Zhang and the elders were to blame me for the brainless young master, saying that I had taken care of him poorly, wouldn't I have to eat rattan? Thinking so, Chen Yendu nodded nervously. Be good. Zhao Yuzhen took her hand off his mouth and touched the little cow's nose on his head. Can't help sighing. Qingcheng Mountain is really a place of outstanding people. At the age of 12 or 13, a calf's nose is almost 6 feet tall. At the age of 15, little Zhao Jianxian has already 7 feet tall. Chen Yendu made a Taoist bow and said, when will you wake up, junior master? That day, there was thunder and the sect leaders and elders were all frightened, afraid that something might happen to junior master. Just woke up soon, Yendu's nephew. Don't disturb them yet. Do you have anything to eat? I'm starving your senior uncle. Let me go to the dining room first. Can you steam mantou? Zhao Yuzhen was taken aback and said, don't you have any meat? I'm just recovering from a serious illness. Don't you give me some meat and fish supplements? This. Chen Yendu was in a dilemma, I'm afraid we need approval from the elders for meat and fish. Forget it. Let's have 2 mantou first. Remember to hurry. Zhao Yuzhen turned around and pushed open the door, heading towards the study. After a few steps, she noticed that her clothes were floating, so she had to roll up the sleeves of her emerald Taoist robe and wrap her arms twice, feeling unsatisfied. It's not easy. In front of the bookshelf, Zhao Yuzhen said, Old Zhao, are you planning to find the secret script? The secret scripts are all in the classic pavilion, and there is only a collection in my study. Zhao Yuzhen's gaze swept over, and the ancient Chinese characters on the classics were all readable. Even guessing was confusing, but it was still understandable. The Taoism in this world seems to have some connection with the Taoism in Zhao Yuzhen's hometown, but there are also many non-universal ones. For example, many classics that Zhao Yuzhen has read are not found here. I'm looking for geography or funwu. Zhao Yuzhen started flipping through the book. The quickest way to integrate into a new place is to read. For a long time, Zhao Jianxian coughed twice and his voice entered his mind. From the left, there were 2 bookshelves, including the Annals of the Southern Kingdom, Annals of the Northern Kingdom, as well as History of Qin, History of Chu, Pearl of the History of Previous Dynasties, Tian Wu Dui Luan, and Gai Wu Huapian. Zhao Yuzhen took out one book at a time and placed it on the desk. Little martial uncle, here comes mantou. Chen Yendu comes in with a plate of 4 mantou. Put it in front of Zhao Yuzhen. Zhao Yuzhen picked up the fluffy texture and suddenly asked, Yendu, this fine white noodles, right? Of course. Chen Yendu was startled by the senseless question. Did martial uncle find something wrong with this mantou? Zhao Yuzhen's gaze shifted from the white noodles and stared at Chen Yendu. How often do you eat white noodles before going up the mountain? Chen Yendu hesitated and dared not speak, afraid that Zhao Yuzhen would look down on his background. Zhao Yuzhen's gaze softened and he said, it's not a problem. We're about the same age, and our senior uncle hasn't come down the mountain yet. He just wants to hear about the situation below the mountain. If it were a good year, it would be easier for my father to make a living. But before spring plowing, he could get back 1 pound of white flour, and on New Year's Eve, he could get 3 pounds. If it were a disaster year. Chen Yendu seemed to remember something and lowered his head without saying a word. It's hard for you. Zhao Yuzhen handed mantu to Chen Yendu. No need, senior uncle, no need. Since I went up the mountain, my master and senior brothers have treated me extremely well. I can eat white noodles every meal. Chen Yendu looked like a frightened rabbit. Here you are, take it, Zhao Yuzhen said. I didn't say they were bad to you. Take it and eat it. Senior uncle, I can't eat that much. 3 is enough. This. Chen Yendu took the mantu and, thank you, little martial uncle. Then he took a bite, which was too big and choked his throat. Yendu's nephew, please go find the water first and slowly. Zhao Yuzhen awkwardly muttered, the problem of relieving misfortune is not very big, it doesn't harm you much, it doesn't harm you much. Chen Yendu quickly withdrew from the study and went to search for water. Why are you so nervous? Little Zhao Jianxian, who had been silent for a long time, asked. For copper plates and a bowl of noodles. Zhao Yuzhen sat on the desk, tapping out the sound of horse hooves with her fingers. Has Zhao Jianxian been drinking dew for too long? Zhao Yuzhen remained silent. He had never gone down the mountain and didn't know how to respond. Where are the food goods and huazhu in Qin and Chu respectively? The Qin dynasty is 277, and the Chu dynasty is 383. The Dao sword immortal Dao's heart is clear and unforgettable. Qin's measurement and balance, with Chu. Same regulations and systems. Sure enough, the level of productivity is still too low. Zhao Yuzhen closed the book and tapped the sound of a horse's hoof on the desk with her fingers. The main contradiction is still between life and imbalance and insufficient development. Lao Zhao, this is. Let's go, it's time we met LV Suzhen. Chen Yendu happened to enter the door and bowed, saying, young master uncle, I would like to invite Master Zhang. Have you swallowed it? Zhao Yuzhen joked. Chen Yendu looked embarrassed. These old cow noses are also calm and there are no bee pupae coming over, Zhao Yuzhen silently recited. Little Zhao Jianxian, are you sure that only by silently reciting can you hear? I'm just thinking about it, you can't hear it, right? I can't hear. Little Zhao Jianxian's helpless voice rang out in his mind. Martial nephew, lead the way ahead. Zhao Yuzhen walked over the desk, raised her sword finger, and flicked her hem, making a scene of a Peking opera performance. Zhao Yuzhen. Zhao Yuzhen said, brother, I've had a great time. Bored pathfinding. Lead the heavenly master's mansion. LV Suzhen said, junior brothers, Yuzhen's mischievous behavior this time has been taught a lesson by Daozu. We need to appease him more and punish him less. It's extremely extreme, senior brother Zhang is right. Everyone agreed, only hearing the young voice of the guide child. Uncle Zhao Yuzhen is here. Zhao Yuzhen repeatedly lifted her Taoist robe and walked into the heavenly master's mansion without any manners. Looking at LV Suzhen, she fixed her gaze on her white hair and childlike appearance, her white beard hanging down her chest, and couldn't help but blurt out, LV Yen. LV Suzhen was taken aback for a moment, looked at the chi book, and saw Zhao Yuzhen shining brightly all over her body, vaguely wrapped in a black cloud. Using his fingers as a sword, he attacked Zhao Yuzhen and said, Yuzhen has fallen into evil. Please help me, junior brothers. Wait. Zhao Yuzhen shouted at the Qingcheng Mountain leaders who were attacking from all directions. He took a horse step and started to move. Big dragon elephant power. Suddenly, he stopped the crowd, twisted his wrists slightly, like a breeze caressing the willows, and sent them back to their seats. The disciple has just recovered from a serious illness, so it's not appropriate for the master and his fellow martial uncles to come and try their moves, right? The young man's voice was clear and his gaze was clear, like a clear wind and moon among the old Taoist priests, shining brightly. Lao Zhao, I only have 20.30 rest days, I can't hold on anymore, Zhao Yuzhen said in Shanghai. This is Xiaoyao Tianjing. LV Suzhen couldn't help but get excited. Looking at the qi technique, Zhao Yuzhen's breath was like jade, bamboo, and moon, and the emerald jade was cute. Not bad, not bad. After speaking, he withdrew his gaze. Blessed by misfortune, Daozu taught a lesson, and Yuzhen stepped into the realm of freedom. After Zhao Yuzhen finished speaking, Zhao Yuzhen regained control of her body. Xiao Zhao, what's going on? Zhao Yuzhen questioned in the sea of knowledge. Dragging your luck, after the contradictory argument breaks the mystery, I break through the realm and can take over this body for a little time every day. Just a few tens of seconds. Decades of interest. At present, this is the case, but once the realm is stable, there should be some more time. Force takeover. Yes. Zhao Yuzhen was speechless, and as her emotional partner turned around, her body was. But don't worry, I will only take over forcibly in special circumstances, such as when there is a situation that cannot be solved without force. I will discuss other situations with you. That's about it. Zhao Yuzhen withdrew from the chat after the original wife showed weakness. Yuzhen, you deserve to be my genius in Qingcheng Mountain for 100 years. LV Suzhen came to hold Zhao Yuzhen's hand excitedly. Do you still remember back then, when you were born, the rosy glow lingered and the purple air came from the east? Stop, master, shouldn't you give an explanation? Zhao Yuzhen interrupted LV Suzhen's idealistic remarks about the supernatural phenomena in time. LV Suzhen awkwardly said, when you came in, I used the technique of lookout qi and saw that you were wrapped in a ball of ink with dazzling light. I thought you had gone crazy, but I didn't expect it to be because your martial arts were not good enough, and you almost accidentally injured your lover. It's a sin. The elders twitched at the corners of their mouths. You, LV Suzhen, can't get home from looking for a dragon on Qingcheng Mountain. I'm afraid there may be some hidden information. Zhao Yuzhen was taken aback for a moment, forgetting that there is still such idealistic cultivation in this world. LV Suzhen said again, blessed by misfortune, Daozu has bestowed upon you a carefree life. Don't think about going down the mountain again in the future. Wait a moment. LV Suzhen murmured, it's strange. Ziwei is unpredictable, and the Thunder Gate variable seems like a child stopped crying when they see a giant beast. Suddenly, it becomes weak. No, I want to start a story. After speaking, I turned around and wanted to leave. The Lei Men variable. Zhao Yuzhen thought to herself, isn't that referring to Lei Wujie? That's the protagonist, someone with great fortune. After thinking about it, he lightly pushed LV Suzhen's back and said, Master hasn't seen you for a long time, and you don't want to have a good conversation with your disciple. What's Yuzhen asking? LV Suzhen turned around, now that your martial arts level is still higher than that of a teacher, I'm afraid that being a teacher won't teach you anything in martial arts. Zhao Yuzhen thought for a moment and said, Master, were you called LV Yen before? No. Who is this LV Yen? Is your Taoist name Dongbin? Sin, villain. Isn't it just a pastime as a teacher? A teacher can't compare to the Wudang founder Qingcheng Zhenren. Isn't it thunderous and foolish? Zhao Yuzhen blinked. It's just that, I'm afraid it's because my realm is not yet solid and I'm overworked, which has given rise to this group of nonsense. LV Suzhen gave a really impressed look. You. Master, I won't practice swordsmanship anymore. Don't worry, it's me who doesn't practice, should you practice or not. Zhao Yuzhen silently recited in Shihai. Why? Don't you know that all the martial arts and qi luck of Qingcheng for 100 years have been with you? As the leader, LV Suzhen should have kept his emotions hidden, but his face was gloomy at this moment. The elders remained silent. After being struck by lightning, if a disciple realizes something and steps into the realm of freedom, the master knows what kind of teachings the disciple has come to understand. What's the point? Liu Suzhen's face lit up slightly. Heaven and earth are inhumane and treat all things as cud dogs. Sages are inhumane and treat the people as cud dogs. Zhao Yuzhen said, heaven and earth are inhumane because heaven and earth themselves do not have personality or emotions, so all things are equal in heaven and earth. But what about saints? Can we treat the same kind as cud dogs and treat them equally? This. LV Su really didn't know how to answer. If this insight cannot be broken, then it cannot be established, Zhao Yuzhen said. Whether it is in the path of martial arts or the path of the Tao, there can be no further improvement. What does Yuzhen want? LV Suzhen asked. Master, do you know how much grain is produced annually per mu in the world? Zhao Yuzhen did not answer directly. 3 stones. LV Suzhen said a number. Sanshur is a good field in a year of good weather, with careful management. Zhao Yuzhen recalled the food and goods legend in Qin and Chu history books. If it were a bad year, the fertile field would only be worth 1 stone. What about the middle field? Or the thin field? LV Suzhen could not answer that Taoism was the national religion of his dynasty, and there was no shortage of food and clothing on Qingcheng Mountain. In addition to taxation and exploitation, how much can a person's annual cultivation reach their own hands? The sages and wise masters in this temple will make their own decisions. LV Suzhen passed the ball to the 6 officials with a clever pass. You can rest assured that Qingcheng Mountain will last for 100 years. Is Qingcheng important or Li Min important? Zhao Yuzhen said in a loud voice, there is a scale in heaven and earth. It is unbreakable and does not stand. If you want to be born, enter the world first. Zhao Yuzhen wants to help the world, please lead the sect and complete it. Zhao Yuzhen bowed and bowed, word by word, as if leading a group of old Taoists into an incredibly mysterious realm. Suddenly, Zhao Yuzhen's true energy surged into a grand atmosphere, driving the old Taoist priests to flicker and flicker. This is an epiphany resonance. A group of old Taoist priests were extremely surprised. The sudden realization of circumstances is fleeting. Those with discerning eyes can see that Zhao Yuzhen has touched the Tao with herself and brought blessings to all the old Taoists. Yuzhen, are you really going down the mountain? LV Suzhen sat down dejectedly. No, I won't go down the mountain or practice swordsmanship, Zhao Yuzhen smiled brightly. I want to release my sword and farm. I have been in Qingcheng for 100 years. LV Su stared blankly at Zhao Yuzhen. Master, I just didn't practice swordsmanship anymore, but I didn't forget the Taoist techniques, Zhao Yuzhen said. I have a divination that Qingcheng will last for 100 years, and there is a prophecy. The old Taoist priests are waiting for Zhao Yuzhen to deliver. Qingcheng is thriving in Fansong. Chapter 5. Sword Theory, on the Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator. Chapter 6. Under the tutelage of Yuan Shitian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The small building of Dao Jianxian has a courtyard. There is a towering peach tree in the courtyard. The branches and leaves are lush, the breeze blows, the sunlight falls, and the courtyard is mottled with light and shadow. Only when Zhao Yuzhen takes over his body again can he be called the Dao Sword Immortal. At this moment, with just 15 strands of hair tied, the carefree Dao Sword Immortal sat cross-legged in the air. A rough and extremely rough iron embryo with a sword outline that cannot be called a sword hangs in front of the Dao Sword Immortal. Is this your sword? It's too rough. It didn't even open its front. In the divine sense, Zhao Yuzhen wrote that he shared his vision with the Taoist Sword Immortal. After the Taoist Sword Immortal took over the body, he watched the Taoist Sword Immortal summon it from the root of the towering peach tree. The Kunlun Sword Immortal, crafted from the Xianyang Sword Child, is 9 out of 10. It should have been the warmest sword in the human world. Unfortunately, it has been partially destroyed. Dao Sword Immortal said, I have heard of your people's sword and found that the warmest sword in this world cannot reach to. What are you doing with it? Just stick it under the peach tree and give it some iron, Zhao Yuzhen asked. I can't reach the realm of no sword, but I think I should have the realm of wooden sword. So. Don't worry, that's what Yang Gaiji, the Western madman, thought back then. In the end, he was chased and beaten by a llama holding a golden wheel. Shi Kuang Yang Gaiji. There's a master in our village who is about the same height as you. To be honest, I still quite like someone who is skilled and unskilled in épée without a sharp edge, but I don't want to be a disabled person, and I don't have any sculptures around me. After finishing speaking, Zhao Yuzhen concretely portrayed Bai Gu's passing son in Shihai and said, Look, he's handsome. He's a skilled replacement. Indeed, Feng Lang is divine and handsome. Xiao Zhao Jianxian also generously praised Bai Gu. He's the earliest CP I've ever hit, Zhao Yuzhen said proudly. He's also a heavy sword. Zhao Yuzhen withdrew her divine consciousness and looked at the sword fetus in front of her, saying, I think I am worth a wooden sword, not stagnant in anything. Stubborn. Borrow a branch and use it. Zhao Yuzhen waved his hand and cut off a wrist that was thick. The peach branch flew towards Zhao Yuzhen as if being pulled. During the flight, the branches that sprouted outside were pruned clean and tidy. When he hung in front of Zhao Yuzhen, he looked like a peach wood stick that had been straightened with an ink brush. Zhao Yuzhen raised his sword fingers and carved them finger by finger against the Xianyang sword embryo. After about a moment, Zhao Yuzhen exclaimed, Okay, Xiao Zhao Jianxian has made progress today. He has been holding on for a while now. Zhao Yuzhen thought twice and said, Yesterday I had an epiphany, and my cultivation has improved by 1 point. Now I can hold on for at least an hour. Silence. For a long time, Zhao Yuzhen said, So that means you're almost recovering. The wooden sword is well carved, only missing a name 3 inches on the frame. I also rubbed against your kindness, but it's still far from really getting better. Dao Jianxian seemed to dodge a bit. Look, Lao Zhao, what should I call the warmest wooden sword in the world? Is it good to call it Peach Blossom? Zhao Yuzhen remained silent, while Zhao Yuzhen also stopped carving. In the end, Zhao Yuzhen's cheerful voice broke the silence. Peach blossoms are not warm enough. In the 4th month of the human world, the fragrant flowers are all gone, and the peach blossoms in the mountain temple begin to bloom. Peach blossoms also bloom by rubbing against the warmth of spring. It's better to call them spring water. The spring rain moistens all things, and the wind seeps into the night, moistening everything silently. The spring river water warms the duck prophet. Okay, let's call it Chunchue. Dao Jianxian inscribed the 2 characters Chunchue on his sword. I practiced it before and it's called the Infinite Sword, but I seem to have come up with a sword that suits me better. Let me tell you, infinity is not suitable for a long time. I have quantum mechanics on me, which fills in your infinity. Zhao Yuzhen pursed her nose and said, What have you invented? Invention. That's quite appropriate, said Dao Jianxian. I have come up with a new concept called the Pure Yang Sword. You're not afraid of Wudang Mountain accusing you of plagiarism. No, Wudang's Pure Yang belongs to Wudang, my Pure Yang belongs to the Dao. The young man in the blue Taoist robe was full of energy. If you were here, I would go back to Shihai. Little cow knows. You should lower it first. I don't know how to hover. Before Zhao Yuzhen could come out, he saw a move called Sword Immortal Phase Slash. Before he could use it, a strong dragon elephant force helped Zhao Yuzhen to the right and finally stepped on the ground with a strong sense of security. Hey, you stinky cow nose. 2 swords lost control and fell from the air. I said Xiao Zhao Jianxian, you have spring water now, this Xianyang. Zhao Yuzhen asked. It's yours, it's yours. Dao Jianxian said helplessly, what else do we have to share? It's different, my dear brothers still keep an eye on things. Zhao Yuzhen picked up 2 swords and immediately drew a move called the Wang Ba double swords. The Dao sword immortal covered his eyes, not looking. After completing the chaotic dance of King Ba, the sword immortal, De Zhao, held his double swords with one hand and raised his sword finger in front of his chest with the other hand, standing gracefully. Zhao Yuzhen's body, paired with the ethereal Taoist robe, was also quite dignified as the mountain wind blew by. After not holding on for 2 minutes, with a loud bang, Zhao Yuzhen dropped 2 swords and sat down on the ground, ignoring her image. She gasped for breath and said, "I'm so tired, this sword is actually not light. But all boys have a wish to travel the world with swords when they were young." Xiao Zhao Jianxian, the part one just did was quite agile, wasn't it? Silence. How about you switch to other wishes to fulfill them? The sincere voice of the young man rushed into Zhao Yuzhen's mind. What are your other wishes? If I had been in my earlier years, when I was young and reckless, perhaps like some travelers, I would have used a great scholar from our family, Mr. Henku, to answer you, to establish a heart for heaven and earth, to establish a destiny for the people, to inherit the teachings of the sage, and to open up peace for all eternity. Zhao Yuzhen seemed to have embarked on a journey once again, with Sanskrit sounds in her ears and a dazzling array of colors. To establish one's heart for heaven and earth, to establish one's destiny for the people, to continue learning from the sages, and to bring peace to the world. This gentleman is truly. He has made a great wish. He. Zhao Yuzhen smiled. As I delved deeper, I realized that there were more people who used this sentence as a slogan, fewer people who were targets, more followers, and fewer followers. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent. Although his heart was clear, he didn't understand why such a vibrant sentence would be used as a slogan. Until I met my 3 gentlemen, Zhao Yuzhen seemed to suppress her excitement. As I grew older, I met more and more teachers, but there weren't many who were so friendly that they could be called gentlemen. Rather than saying they were my gentlemen, it was more like I licked my face to recognize them. They made me realize that there are really some people who have simple wishes and simple emotions. Zhao Yuzhen, if you ask, who do you think created history? Zhao Yuzhen asked seriously. This. Zhao Yuzhen quickly recalled the Book of Qin, History of Chu, and Tianwu Wenduan. It should be all kinds of kings and ministers. Zhao Yuzhen's face under the light curtain made an expression as expected. But today I want to tell you that what you said is wrong. My eldest husband told me that history is created by the people. Before Zhao Yuzhen could reply, he said, historians are unfortunate, poets are fortunate, and it is easy to write vicissitudes of life. Excellent and extremely bad constitute history books. No matter how magnificent they were during their lifetime, they will be systematically placed in the history books by historians with only a few words and ink. The people who created history have no right to covet the right to leave their names in history books. Look, even the qualifications of names are deprived. I know what you're puzzled about, Zhao Yuzhen said. I can tell you, my eldest master is also a character like Emperor Tianwu Shao-yi, who was tasked with helping the general of the building collapse in times of crisis. Perhaps in Tianwu Wen Dui, the hero of Emperor Tianwu is unparalleled, and he slashed the country of Bailey with one sword. On that day, where were the generals under Emperor Wu? Where did the soldiers under Emperor Tianwu come from? Where did the soldiers come from? And where did the food and clothing come from? Just relying on Emperor Tianwu to create the world alone, this heroic historical view is too strong. The situation creates heroes, not just because of the situation. Heroes create the situation. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent. Fortunately, the conversation was in the sea of consciousness. Otherwise, once this rebellious speech was spread, Qi Tianqian would fly out of the Qin Heavenly Observatory directly, facing the thunder of the Taoist ancestor, and want to exterminate him here. My eldest master said that if you want to become a teacher of the people, you must first become a student of the people. Zhao Yuzhen said, "My eldest master, dare to peel off the long life that should have belonged exclusively to the emperor and put it on the people. He takes the lead in shouting 'Long live the people.' Does Shao Yi dare not?" Qingcheng Mountain, where the sun was shining brightly, suddenly saw dark clouds sweeping the city, lightning and thunder, like a warning. Lv Suzhen and others quickly pinched their fingers, but couldn't figure out the reason. Zhao Yuzhen stood up from the ground without any concern, picked up the Xianyang sword tire, and said, "My master even said, they are all paper tigers." Chao Tian pointed to him and said, "The golden monkey rises up with 1,000 sticks, and the jade world clears thousands of miles." It seems that a trace of Zhao Yuzhen's body light has been peeled off from the sea of consciousness, crossed the dimensions, and crossed into the Xianyang sword embryo, emitting an incredibly dazzling light that shattered the dark clouds in the sky. Qingcheng Mountain has seen the light again. "Wave your sword to conquer the floating clouds." Zhao Yuzhen exclaimed in shock. This is a state that he has not yet reached. Zhao Yuzhen inserted the Xianyang sword tire into the ground and said, "My eldest master asked me to stand up and told me not to kneel. My eldest master is an extremely kind person." After speaking, Zhao Yuzhen sat down on the ground again and said, "My second master is a strict person. He is fierce and will scold me for his misfortune and anger. He will scold me for being red and swollen, as beautiful as peach blossoms, and as beautiful as cheese when it rots. But he will also be very open-minded and take me to see the morning and evening flowers. He also takes special care of the calf. Although he doesn't have true energy, he will protect me with his body and curse those cannibalistic wolves for me. I don't like him at all, he always writes long articles for me to memorize." At this point, the 15-year-old boy's bright eyes seemed to mist with water. "But as I grew up, I realized that my second master has the ability to know the future. In the articles I have memorized before, it is clear that they are all written by my second master." The young man tapped his temple with his finger and said, "My second master is a strict person. I still remember him sternly demanding that if there is no light, you are the only light. And my third master, he has only one wish in his lifetime." Zhao Yuzhen grinned with her body. "That's to plant the seedlings as high as this peach tree, feed everyone, and then cool down under the crops. Is it a lovely wish?" Zhao Yuzhen, who was in the sea of knowledge, turned her head to ask the 15-year-old sword immortal. The sword immortal nodded silently. "Later on, my third master worked hard to farm. He really made him grow rice that could feed everyone. If he were to leave it on your side, he would be called a Shen Nong, and then bring it into the temple to enjoy the pig's head meat. Xiao Zhao Jianxian, have you never been hungry? My third master has been hungry before, so he knows how uncomfortable it can be when hungry." Zhao Yuzhen said, "His mind is very simple, everyone has enough to eat. It's also very difficult for him to complete his mind, that is, everyone really has enough to eat. By the way, I won't tell you my third master's real name," the young man continued to grin. "Let me tell you about his widely acclaimed title, Hua Guo Shen Nong, Yuan Shi Tian Zun." The young man grinned at the moment, tears streaming down his face like shattered jade. "I really hope there is a ghost saying that allows me to personally salute the three gentlemen. No, if there is a ghost saying, the three gentlemen must have been ranked among the immortal classes and enjoyed the incense of the human world." Knowing the sea, Zhao Yuzhen hesitated to speak. "Do you want to ask why, as someone who believes in materialism, I have such idealistic thoughts?" Zhao Yuzhen nodded. "Because I am a human being, a living person, a complex person, it is impossible to be simply defined by a single materialism. I also have emotions and sorrow. In the world of materialism, passing and leaving cannot be transferred by human will. I am not strong enough to face it directly. Therefore, I need to find a turning point to express this emotion. The ghosts evolved from idealism serve as a buffer for sadness. Materialism and idealism are contradictory, but they are interdependent and intertwined. I detest idealism, but it does not mean that idealism must be eliminated. Under certain conditions, I can also be idealistic. For example, my eldest son told us not to kneel. But if the eldest son who saved water and fire, supported the upright, and showed kindness to the people really stood in front of me, how should I express my respect? Because it contradicts his demands, should I not express that emotion? I cannot do it. This is the contradiction of humanity. In our hometown, when you ask anyone, who is the greatest person? People will say it is him. But if you have the opportunity to ask him, he will answer you. It is the people. In the sea of consciousness, Zhao Yuzhen waved away the lounge chair. In concrete form, there is a cute old man rubbing his face, complaining about being too tired to guide his students and correcting their articles. I've seen Mr. Yuan, Zhao Yuzhen arched his hand. I have seen Yuan Shitian, Zhao Yuzhen bowed. Yuan Shitian passed by in a flash. Then, another person appeared with hair and stubble like wild grass, messy and tough, with a thin face and stern eyes that seemed not to wander. They were eager to shout and eventually burst into a hot wind. Full of knowledge. I have met Mr. Yutsai, Zhao Yuzhen said. I have seen Mr. Air, Zhao Yuzhen said. My eldest master, I won't invite you out. The second master turned into a flash of light, and after that, Zhao Yuzhen said, My eldest master, your small world can't accommodate you. Zhao Yuzhen remained silent. Mr. De is kind, but I can't learn from him. His wish is grand. I'm afraid the small world within the sea of knowledge cannot bear it. Mr. De, I can't learn. Mr. Air is strict, and I don't want to learn from him. It's not that I'm afraid of putting on a bad face and getting used to it over time. But it's because I'm afraid I won't learn well and ruin Mr. Air's reputation. Mr. San is the best. No matter how mischievous I am, he will feel that I haven't grown up to tolerate me yet. After causing great trouble, he will only happily ask me if I have eaten enough today, so I call him Mr. San's disciple to the public. I am a staunch materialist, and only to the martyrs, I long for them to have an afterlife and personally taste the fruits of victory. Chapter 7. Sequence and Dao Xing Yi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zhao Yuzhen, with his hands folded in his sleeves and without the grace of a heavenly master, looked up at the sky, and then looked at the verdant Qingcheng Mountain bathed in the sun. He muttered to himself, it seems to be pure energy without radiation. Damn it, that thing treats me like a reactor. Or a wastewater tank. Zhao Yuzhen quickly looked into the sea and saw Zhao Jianxian floating on a cushion with his 5 hearts facing upwards. He closed his eyes and fell into focus. He also resembled a spring water handle, hanging horizontally on his chest. It's not affected either, Zhao Yuzhen thought to herself. Did I have to digest all the radiation myself? It's over. My unified model of the universe has degenerated into a nuclear reactor. Feeling Zhao Yuzhen's gaze, the young Dao sword immortal lifted from his meditative state and stood tall, floating on the shoulder of the Dao sword immortal. The spring water sword also followed the master's footsteps from horizontal to straight. Old Zhao Jianxian, what can I do for you? Zhao Yuzhen asked. Zhao Jianxian, have you gained some understanding again? Yes, Dao Jianxian said with a clear heart, 3 gentlemen, I have gained a lot of insights. Okay, you big nose. You secretly came to my husband for extra classes behind my back. Do you have any advice from old Zhao Jianxian? Dao Jianxian was already helpless with Zhao Yuzhen's various rogue behaviors. Zhao Yuzhen thought for a moment and couldn't explain radiation clearly to him. He then said, I want to turn the yard into a paddy field. Qingcheng Mountain is so big that it has to be in the yard. Zhao Yuzhen was really helpless. This peach tree is half my family and half my teacher when I grow up. So don't you want to find some company for your teacher? Dao Jianxian Qi Jie. Hey, Zhao Jianxian, do you know your peach master? What is Lao Zhao Jianxian's opinion? In the sea of consciousness, Dao Jianxian's delicate eyebrows twisted into a beautiful knot. It is widely rumored in the martial arts world that among the 5 great sword immortals, the sword of the Confucian sword immortal is the most elegant, the sword of the Snow Moon sword immortal is the most beautiful, the sword of the Lone sword immortal is the most unique, the sword of the Angry sword immortal is the most powerful, and you, the sword of the Dao sword immortal, are the most immortal. You have never fallen into the mortal world, nor been affected by cause and effect. Zhao Yuzhen spoke confidently, without any sense of shame as a spoiler. What is the most powerful sword of the Angry sword immortal? Bah. Xiao Zhao Jianxian, who was in the sea of knowledge, frowned and smiled happily. It seems that there are so many experts in the world, and I can't even see a leopard in a spot. You stinky cow nose. Taking advantage of Grandpa. I'm so angry. Zhao Yuzhen lost a city in pain and jumped in anger. Lao Zhao sword immortal, please continue, I am all ears. Dao sword immortal calmly resolved. Zhao Yuzhen returned her divine sense and turned her gaze to the peach tree. Summer had arrived, and the tree was full of peach blossoms. Hatred said, Little Zhao Jianxian, with a clear heart, do you know how many branches there are in this peach tree? The Dao sword immortal's sword heart was clear, and as Zhao Yuzhen's gaze swept over the peach tree, he immediately calculated, 28642 branches. How many branches are there in the previous level? The previous level. Dao sword immortal was puzzled. How many branches are there that grow these 28,000 branches? Zhao Yuzhen improvised a tongue twister. The sword of the lost Dao had a clear heart, and after a moment of recollection, he came to the conclusion. 17,703 branches. What about going one level further up? 10,943 branches. Have you found the pattern? Zhao Yuzhen, who was in the sea of consciousness, lay on a recliner. What are the rules? Dao Jianxian couldn't understand. How does the first 2 levels add up compared to the 3rd level? Zhao Yuzhen didn't believe it. I, who has received 9 years of compulsory education, can't play with you like a fat house. Well, he said sword immortal is not a dead fat house. The sum of the first 2 levels is not much different from the 3rd level. It's not much different. Dao Xian was clear and calculated quickly. Zhao Yuzhen got up from the recliner and said, well, indeed, it's acceptable within the error range. But don't forget, the error factor is now in your hands. Lao Zhao sword immortal glanced and noticed that spring water was floating beside Dao sword immortal. He quickly changed his mind and said, you flew your sword beside me. Dao sword immortal originally thought that he had experienced great storms these days, and no matter how stimulating Zhao Yuzhen's words were, they could not make his Dao heart relax. At this moment, he talks about a common matter and usually reveals a law related to the Tao. Zhao Yuzhen, who was in the sea of consciousness, spread out his right hand and the spring water automatically flew into his hand. With spring water added, 10946, and 147111, their sum is 28657. Zhao Yuzhen seemed to not give up and pushed 2 things forward, like thunder piercing through her brain. How about we start counting from the main trunk? It's too brain-wrenching to calculate too much from the back, Zhao Yuzhen said. The main trunk. Zhao Yuzhen embodied the peach tree, which had been with him every day for 15 years. He knew every branch of this towering tree like the back of his hand. Perhaps it had anticipated that it could grow so much that it covered the sky and sun, so the main trunk was very short. The thick and short trunk of the peach tree split into 2 slightly thinner branches than the main trunk. This. Dao Jianxian looked at Zhao Yuzhen. My little Zhao Jianxian, where is your awakening energy? Zhao Yuzhen hates iron for not becoming steel. Does it have roots? 1, 1, 2, 3. Zhao Yuzhen murmured incredulously. You can also treat the land as 0. Zhao Yuzhen put on a nose-picking costume, not sure if he was really picking in the light curtain. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3. The Dao Sword Immortal counted every number in his heart, and his eyes began to glow with gold. The Dao gave birth to 1, 2, 2 gave birth to 3. Lao Zhao Jianxian looked at the golden light shining from Dao Jianxian's eyes, then looked at himself and said, "Cut, who doesn't have it?" For a long time, the golden light on Zhao Yuzhen's body faded away. Zhao Yuzhen was convinced that if it weren't for his divine sense, he wouldn't have sweated. At this moment, the Dao Sword Immortal must have been salvaged from the water. How do you ask him to know? Because in reality, the young man's body had indeed soaked through his emerald green robe. Lao Zhao, what else haven't you taught me? Zhao Yuzhen gasped heavily in the sea of knowledge. I'm just telling you that the branches of the peach tree correspond to the Fibonacci number. I didn't expect you to think about Dao Xing's side, Zhao Yuzhen said. Heaven and earth have a conscience. Fibonacci. Dao Jianxian's eyes lit up, as if he felt that the word might be related to Dao. Don't think about it, Fibonacci has nothing to do with Taoism, he doesn't even know about this Taoist system. Zhao Yuzhen interrupted his thoughts, this is just a simple sequence on our end. Do you understand a sequence? It's a set of numbers that can be deduced through special laws. Zhao Yuzhen was clear at first, but still puzzled, then it. That's a coincidence. Lao Zhao's Sword Immortal waved his hand, Dao Sheng, this kind of. Can be considered a coincidence. What about other coincidences? Are there any? Looking into the curious eyes of Zhao Jianxian, Zhao Yuzhen remembered that this child was only 15 years old, and it should be the time for him to seek knowledge. He was 15 years old and wanted to transform into some giant of light every day. In the sea of consciousness, a blackboard is embodied. Draw a bunch of adjacent squares with Fibonacci number as the side length. Then start drawing a quarter arc from one vertex of a square with a side length of 1, and wait until all the arcs are connected to form a perfect, golden spiral. Zhao Yuzhen took down the golden spiral from the blackboard, like Iron Man's intelligent office, and showed it to Dao Jianxian. You see, this spiral doesn't look like the shape of a wind rolling up clouds. The further back, the closer the ratio of adjacent items approaches a fixed value. The point represented by this fixed value is the most perfect point. Zhao Yuzhen picked up a peach blossom with the body of a young man, lightly sniffed it, and then in the sea of consciousness, a peach blossom floated. Then, 4 more Fibonacci spirals were replicated, and 5 more were symmetrically replicated. All spirals were started from a single starting point, and the final shape was placed on the peach blossom, with all the vertices of the petals precisely stepping on the spirals. These points are perfect, so peach blossoms grow according to these points. The Dao Sword Immortal stared at the perfect golden spiral and suddenly felt relieved. I know, my pure yang sword used to have some moves that didn't work. It must be because the points of true qi were set incorrectly. Now that I know these perfect points, I believe I can be more refined. Thank you, old Zhao Sword Immortal. Zhao Yuzhen was overwhelmed by the sudden thank you and said, is this all right? Really, number cultivation. Well, I have gained a lot of insights today, said the Dao Sword Immortal. Numbers have such a wonderful use. Your hometown is indeed mysterious. That's useless. We can't fly like you think with a sword, floating like an immortal, Zhao Yuzhen said with a strange tone. Perhaps this is also a way to make up for the shortcomings while losing some. Dao Jianxian gave Zhao Yuzhen a meaningful glance. Don't bother, our way may not be suitable for your side, Zhao Yuzhen had a sudden idea. Zhao Jianxian, I have some questions, please teach me. Please, Zhao Yuzhen gestured with a gesture of invitation as she pulled up her sleeve. If there are numbers, they can be completely divided by one from itself, which is called a prime number. If there are numbers, they can be completely divided by one from themselves, which is called a composite number. 1 is not a composite number, nor is it a prime number. There is now a theory that says, if there is a combination of two powers, a larger number can be added to two prime numbers. Zhao Yuzhen proudly said, is this theory applicable to the young Zhao Jianxian? As soon as the words fell, Zhao Yuzhen's Dao heart in the sea of consciousness became clear, and the light quickly turned. There was no wind in the sea of consciousness, but the Dao Sword Immortal's clothes fluttered and his beard and hair fluttered. In an instant, it seemed that the Dao Sword Immortal was the center, rolling up a wind in the shape of a Fibonacci spiral. Zhao Yuzhen looked at him with extreme eyes and noticed that the white porcelain-like skin of the Dao Sword Immortal seemed to have cracked, with magma like dark red surging in the cracks, and the emerald-like luster on his body flickered. Thinking that even if Zhao Yuzhen's heart was clear, it would still remain within the range of manpower, and his computing power could not be compared to various computers in his past life, he immediately jumped out of the recliner and waved it away. Zhao Yuzhen, stop it! Immediately rushed to Zhao Yuzhen and patted his cracked cheeks, saying, stop, stop. But found that this method was useless. Zhao Yuzhen gritted her teeth, regardless of whether it was useful or not, and gave Zhao Yuzhen a try. Suddenly the wind stopped, and my hair and clothes became flat again. On the jade-like cheeks, the cracks gradually fade away. I thought it was a simple arithmetic, Zhao Yuzhen said weakly. In an instant, you could measure 1,000 places, and I was secretly proud. However, above 10,000 places, the difficulty level before was incomparable. Sorry, brother Zhen, it's me who cheated. Zhao Yuzhen felt embarrassed to look into Dao Jianxian's eyes. I haven't solved this problem in my hometown, and it has nothing to do with your clarity of Dao Xian. Zhao Yuzhen felt relieved and smiled, your hometown is really wonderful. You have the opportunity to take me on a trip. Chapter 8. What? I can't use the power of 2 dimensions. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the summer of Qingcheng Mountain, there is no feeling of summer heat, because the temperature drops 0.6 degrees for every 100 meters above sea level. The transpiration of trees also carries a large amount of heat. Of course, this is not the main reason why Zhao Yuzhen feels cool now. At this moment, there is no need to experience the steaming heat because it is early morning and it has just started to drizzle. Yesterday, I'm sorry, Zhao Yuzhen said to the little Zhao sword fairy in the sea of knowledge. I'll also bring out the unsolved mystery for you. Today, I'm lucky to show you the morning and evening flowers. The so-called morning flowers and evening flowers are those that have rained in the morning, moistened by rain, and reflected with colorful clouds in the evening, making them even more vibrant. Picking up the scenery, not any flower. However, it was obvious that Zhao Yuzhen had a misunderstanding. He felt that it was the morning rain that knocked out the flowers. The falling flowers in the garden are not beautiful. Zhao Yuzhen ran to the peach tree and gave her 2 hard kicks. Suddenly, peach petals fluttered, as if a red rain had fallen. Red rain flies outside the apricot blossom curtain, and the banana window fills the green sky, murmured Zhao Yuzhen, spreading her hands to catch some falling petals. Xiao Zhao Jianxian. Zhao Yuzhen felt the flower rain with her body, and her divine sense communicated with Dao Jianxian in the sea of consciousness. What's up? Can you teach me 2 moves that can fly? Zhao Yuzhen said, I finally experienced an adult fairy tale. Isn't flying without a sword a waste? Lao Zhao's sword immortal values himself, aren't you not practicing swordsmanship anymore? The young Dao sword immortal, who was floating in the sea of consciousness, chuckled lightly. Confucius said, the mouth disdains the integrity of the body. Zhao Yuzhen said seriously, isn't this the essence of humanity? Which Confucius said it? The Dao sword immortal seemed to be working hard to recall. Our famous philosopher over there, Zhengxiangzi. Dao Jianxian was speechless, then skipped over and said, sitting cross-legged, with 5 hearts facing upwards, and feeling with heart, a warm current will surge from the dantian area 3 inches below the abdomen, communicating with the perineum and bones, circulating the extremely important element, and finally closing in the Qi-Si acupoint. This is the most basic route for true Qi enlightenment and enlightenment. You can give it a try. Zhao Yuzhen obediently sat cross-legged, with her hands resting on her knees and her palms facing upwards. For a long time. Dao Jianxian asked, "How about it? Has it been circulating for a whole week?" "Don't make any noise," Zhao Yuzhen said. "It's brewing. Don't ruin my inspiration." "What is brewing?" Dao Jianxian was puzzled. It was just a simple cycle of true Qi, and the requirements were not high. "Hold your breath." Zhao Yuzhen said frantically, "I suspect you're playing me. Warm up your breath." Dao Jianxian is speechless. He has no impure Dao body, how could he be so crude? "This is already the technique that the youngest Taoist child uses for enlightenment," said the Dao sword immortal helplessly. "How long have you been using it?" Zhao Yuzhen refused and always wanted to reclaim the city. "It must have been longer than me. At the age of 1, I was enlightened, and then I opened my mind. I condensed my true Qi and passed through all 4 limbs and bones, and 3 breaths could flow for 9 weeks. Perhaps it was because the Dao sword immortal was sitting in the sea of consciousness, bored and willing to show off Zhao Yuzhen's face. "Have you ever heard a telegram?" Zhao Yuzhen asked. "Telegram? What is it?" "You, Zhao sword immortal, have a clear heart. You are noble, and you are amazing. You cannot compare to me. Is it because I, who was originally in a 3-dimensional world, cannot use 2-dimensional energy?" Zhao Yuzhen couldn't breathe well. "I said Zhao sword immortal, could you give me an interface so that I can use true energy after connecting it?" Interface. Dao Jianxian has gradually adapted to the strange words that old Zhao Jianxian often makes. Let me think about how to say it. The interface is that you differentiate a strand of primordial spirit, one end connecting with my divine consciousness, and one end controlling the body. Although my consciousness can directly stretch and use the body, there are still some functions that cannot be used, such as true Qi. But if your primordial spirit is available, then this strand of primordial spirit acts as a bridge, allowing my thoughts to issue instructions through your primordial spirit, controlling the operation of true Qi. Can it be achieved? Zhao Yuzhen described the needs as detailed as possible. There is quite a taste of being an outsider, practicing people into puppets. The Dao sword immortal seemed to be somewhat resistant. What kind of puppet is this? Zhao Yuzhen became anxious. This is clearly using your body to do your business. Although cyberpunk was a bit more. Besides, governing one's own body is not about governing others. How many times can you come across the perfect experimental equipment for special situations like ours? And such innovative solutions. Zhao Yuzhen pondered for a moment and said, "It's feasible, but my current divine consciousness." I know, you watch and figure out the optimal solution with clarity." As soon as he finished speaking, the Dao sword immortal in the sea of consciousness pulled out a silk thread that looked like cotton and connected it to the dazzling Zhao Yuzhen. Then the silk thread gave birth to another thread, extending upwards as if to poke out the sea of consciousness. In the courtyard, Zhao Yuzhen stretched her muscles and bones for a while, and finally received the so-called warm current in her mind, which flowed straight through her limbs and bones, as if peeling her muscles and bones and soaking them in a hot spring. However, Lao Zhao Jianxian was still not satisfied. "Why is the signal so poor? The water temperature is not enough, we need to add firewood. Let's familiarize ourselves with our abilities first." Zhao Yuzhen looked at old Zhao Jianxian, who was full of energy and punched Wang Ba Quan. "Didn't you always want to fly over the roof and climb the wall?" "Oh, I forgot about the main thing." Zhao Yuzhen grinned and had a clear mind, gathering his true energy in both hands and feet. Iron Arm Astro Boy. With a vertical roar, Zhao Yuzhen flew up to half the height of the peach tree. She glanced down and suddenly felt a fear of heights in her heart. The signal of true Qi was suddenly interrupted, and the meridians of her hands and feet lost their true qi filling. A feeling of weightlessness surged in. Ah! Lao Zhao's sword immortal finally shouted out this time. Fortunately, in an instant, Dao's sword immortal took over his body, flipped over in the air, lightly tapped the peach branch with his toes, and a beautiful, Chu Liuxiang carrying her hands and landing from high altitude, landed. The high-level posture lasted for just 2 minutes, and then returned to Zhao Yuzhen's control. Old Zhao's sword immortal bent down and patted his chest, panting heavily. What happened just now? This interface solution is not very mature yet, Dao Jianxian explained helplessly. When your emotions fluctuate greatly, Lao Zhao, the interface will become very unstable. Does that mean that I still need to cultivate my character and cultivate myself in order to have fun flying over roofs and walls? Zhao Yuzhen was furious, and the sword immortal exclaimed. It seems like this, said Dao Jianxian. All right. This type of experiment is complex and difficult. It's a natural genius to succeed on the first attempt. Lao Zhao, the sword immortal, wouldn't be so subjective. Look at my imperial sword technique. After speaking, raise your sword finger and gather your true energy in your right hand, imagining it as an extended hand. Your true energy is like an extended right arm, grabbing the spring water and lifting it up. The power in the idealistic world is truly wonderful. Zhao Yuzhen closed her eyes and felt the agile true qi like her arms and fingers. Then she opened her eyes and flew around her body twice, riding the spring water. This extended true qi body seems to be compatible wherever it is added. Lao Zhao's sword immortal issued the command to move the true qi body to the head, and then the true qi really transferred from the right hand to the head. Dao Jianxian could only watch helplessly as old Zhao Jianxian played with his new toy and shook his head. Zhao Yuzhen tried to hang her feet 1 foot in the air, strolling around the courtyard, and finally floated outside the entrance of Sword Immortal Xiaozhu. It is said to be the Sword Immortal Xiaozhu, but in fact, there is no name at all. The wooden plaque on the door is still empty, without any inscriptions. I've been displeased with you for a long time. Lao Zhao's sword immortal suddenly raised his head, level with the wooden plaque, and raised his sword finger. Xiao Zhao's sword immortal, I'm going to take action. As you please. Zhao Jianxian meditated as if nothing had anything to do with it. In his lifetime as the sword immortal of Lao Zhao, his family, with a scholarly background, certainly practiced calligraphy a lot. However, the skills on his pen were indeed different from those on his finger, but they were quite similar. Zhao Yuzhen first pressed the wooden plaque with her left hand, felt the solid texture, and then condensed her true energy into her right hand to write on the plaque. The grip of the right hand is different from that of the left hand, as if it points through the water surface, causing Zhao Yuzhen to tremble. Fortunately, it is different from writing on rice paper and not afraid of ink. In the end, Zhao Yuzhen still chose regular script. After finishing the book, Zhao Jianxian, who knew the sea, read out the above content. Ju er bug. Old Zhao Jianxian, is he saying that we two insects live here? Yes. Insect. Second. Residence. It's about the boundless dwelling of the wind, moon. Zhao Yuzhen said displeasedly, do you have any culture? I was a scholar in my previous life. Dao Jianxian was taken aback for a moment, then looked at it again. In the sea of consciousness, he concretely placed a plaque on the door, pointing his finger from right to left and reading, Ju Er Chong. Lao Zhao's sword immortal was stunned. He still had a scholarly background. He only remembered that the characters Feng and Yu had no outer borders and were Chong Er. He didn't expect that if he didn't remember, he would read from right to left. Hee hee. Hee hee. Lao Zhao's sword immortal chuckled awkwardly. As a person, there's no need to be too perfect. Leave a little flaw, it's more authentic. 2 points. Little Zhao Jianxian pointed at the insect's first stroke without any face, causing it to be too deep due to lack of control. Zhao Yuzhen quickly summoned spring water, drew his sword, and looked around to see if there was any elusive Chen Yendu who saw him embarrass. If there was, he would do it directly. After confirming that no one had seen it, Zhao Yuzhen reached out and attempted to remove the door plaque. Lao Zhao, hang it up. The wind and moon are boundless, it's great. The voice of Dao Jianxian penetrated into his mind. Will it be laughed at? Zhao Yuzhen asked. Dao Sword Immortal chuckled and said, You are not originally from this world, why are you still constrained by the rules here? Besides, what if Dao Sword Immortal's residence is different? Dao Sword Immortal is a unique sword immortal. I originally wanted to do as the Romans do when in Rome, but I didn't expect you, with your thick eyebrows and big eyes, to be so pleasing to my taste. Zhao Yuzhen didn't joke. Seeing the bare sides of the door, he immediately raised his index finger and said, Let's add some more tricks. I don't envy the title of a high-ranking official. After thousands of years of severe cold and heat, I have refined it into immortal bones. Like a reclining scholar, with 10 acres of winding branches and graceful stems, hidden in the shape of a dragon. The writing of this couplet was done in regular script by Zhao Yuzhen, which was square and elegant. Zhao Jianxian, who knew the sea, could certainly tell that it was written for the peach tree in the yard. Therefore, he said, Thank you, no one has ever remembered it. Let's write a memorial for the peach master. The young man's body grinned and said, I'm afraid of uneducated people. I don't know that the world is endless, and I just want to become a living worm. Ha ha ha. Little Zhao Jianxian rarely showed a happy smile. The gentle breeze blew by, and the towering peach trees in the yard rustled, as if they were also shaking uncontrollably. By the way, Zhao Jianxian. Zhao Yuzhen asked, Have you read the Laozi Huangting Jing? Never. Zhao Jianxian replied, Isn't this the classic book from your side, Lao Zhao Jianxian? If you have time to comprehend more during these days, Zhao Yuzhen said mysteriously, it is said that there is a divine skill and magical method in this scripture. I will calculate it for a while and copy it for you. Good. Little Zhao Jianxian didn't question it much. As a Taoist healthcare monograph, Huangting Sutra originally focused on the essence of immortality since ancient times. Also, you should learn more about Biopuzi and Shentanki. Zhao Yuzhen saw that Zhao Jianxian was so understanding of refined language, and immediately threw out the classics that he thought might contain shocking secrets. Biopuzi. Shentanki. I haven't heard of it before. Dao Jianxian asked, It's also from your family, isn't it? I forgot, we just have some historical similarities. They're not exactly the same, Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly. I'll write it down for you later. After finishing speaking, Zhao Yuzhen walked straight to the study and began to write silently. The golden crow falls in the west, and the jade rabbit rises in the east. It was not until evening that Zhao Yuzhen silently wrote down the majority of several Taoist books. Before they were completed, Zhao Yuzhen was not allowed to watch them because he had repeatedly corrected and memorized the wrong parts, fearing that Zhao Yuzhen would clarify his mind and recite the wrong ones. Alright, it's done. Zhao Yuzhen sat slumped in the chair, although supported by true qi, the energy required to recite most of her head was not a joke, and not all the true qi of the Dao Sword Immortal could be used to support it. Qiankuan is the gateway to change and the parent of the various hexagrams. Kanli Quanqua, Yunhuzing axis, and the 4 hexagrams of female and peony, are considered as the Tuoyu. Alright, don't recite it. I'm about to vomit on my back, Zhao Yuzhen said weakly. It's too obscure and awkward. Okay. Zhao Jianxian, you said I won't practice swordsmanship anymore. What else can I learn? Give me some fun, otherwise I'll be bored to death. In addition to cultivating immortality and cultivating physical fitness, Taoism also has Taoist talismans and seals. Is there true fire in Samadhi? Zhao Yuzhen didn't feel tired after talking about this. Anything can burn that kind of thing. I'm afraid not. How to play with talismans and seals. Bite your finger, use yellow paper to write, stick it on the zombie's head, and the zombie won't move. Lao Zhao's sword immortal couldn't come up with so many imaginative ideas, Zhao Yuzhen said. It's a spell that connects heaven and earth with hand seals. Is there any sealing technique? Sealing a mountain spirit ghost or something? That's true. Are you sure Lao Zhao's sword immortal wants to learn it? Learn, just learn this. If one day you encounter a nine-tailed fox, it's good to seal it and play with it. You're messed up again, where has your materialistic essence gone? Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly. If you want to learn, it's not difficult. Let's start now. Damn it, Daoxin said it's not difficult, how much credibility does it have? Zhao Yuzhen said, I'm tired of copying books today, I'll talk about it tomorrow. Chapter 9. Reclamation of Southern Wilderness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Study. Zhao Yuzhen unfolded a map of Qingcheng Mountain on his desk. This thing didn't originally exist in the study, but Zhao Yuzhen asked his nephew Chen Yendu to go down the mountain with regular money to buy it. Zhao Yuzhen studied talismans for a few days, seemingly remembering the drawing techniques of several seal scripts, and began to tinker with geography-related things. This thing is not very useful either. Zhao Yuzhen held a book called Feng Wu Ji in her left hand, raised her sword finger in her right hand, and shook it in the air. Feng Wu Ji flipped as if someone were flipping a page. There are no contour lines, and I don't know where it is, whether it's high or not. Actually, I am very familiar with the mountains, Zhao Yuzhen said in his mind. No way, you're familiar with me, but your knowledge doesn't fit in my mind. Zhao Yuzhen didn't think there could be an interface to guide little Zhao Jianxian's knowledge into her own mind. Zhao Yuzhen suddenly floated over the desk and said, Yen Du, nephew. Since getting the new toy, Zhao Yuzhen can fly and never walk. Where else does it look like a materialist warrior? Chen Yendu quickly ran in, and he was no longer surprised by Zhao Yuzhen, who was passionate about levitation. Zhao Yuzhen said, Yen Dusher's nephew, go and collect some regular money, then find some old farmers at the foot of the mountain and wait for me by the Longqiu River. Remember, the older you are, the more valuable you are, and the more you get. This sentence seems to have been deceiving him to fill in the backfire of theoretical physics. Yes. Chen Yendu also figured it out. The closer he was to the junior martial uncle, the more likely he would slip on foot today, choke while eating, or take a shower and pick up his pancreas. What do you think? Taoist in action, avoiding dust with the body, definitely not taking showers frequently, and can still be diverted. So Chen Yendu found the trick to take the task assigned by the junior martial uncle and leave without leaving too much, which will greatly reduce the possibility of being victimized. Watching Chen Yendu's rapid departure, Zhao Yuzhen felt uncomfortable and said, after all, it's someone else's child. No matter how close you are, you will still leave. Zhao Yuzhen said. Old Zhao Jianxian, if you can restrain your aura of misfortune, many people are willing to get close to you. What tricks can I have from my parents? Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly. Old Zhao Jianxian, why are you looking for a few old farmers? Zhao Yuzhen asked again. In your world of farming, of course, it's your local farmers who are more professional than me. I still have a black eye now, and the layman guides the layman. That's a big taboo. Am I like that stubborn and self-reliant person? We are staunch materialists, and we need to analyze specific problems and theories to guide practice. Zhao Yuzhen said. Zhao Jianxian, do you remember the relationship between gravity acceleration and height that I told you about? I remember. Okay, let's go to Longqiu. Lao Zhao's sword immortal emerged gracefully on the edge of Longqiu waterfall. Zhao Yuzhen floated on the turbulent flowing water with a serious expression. Little Zhao Jianxian, you must control your body in time. Otherwise, if I die, you will die. I know. Zhao Yuzhen said helplessly, old Zhao Jianxian, you've been here for half an hour. If you're afraid, let's just forget it. Good guy, even Zhao Jianxian knows how to use provocation techniques. Although he knew it was a thrilling tactic, Lao Zhao's sword immortal remained resolute and said, I'm not afraid, I just want to see the scenery again. Zhao Yuzhen only felt a push on her lower back, and her true energy in all four limbs suddenly lost its signal. The mountains were filled with the ghost cries and wolf howls of old Zhao Jianxian. 9.8133 As he was about to touch the abyss below the waterfall, Dao Jianxian took over his body and stopped the wolf howling. His feet were 1 foot above the water, and his hands were behind his back, conveying an approximate number to Zhao Yuzhen. Not much difference, Zhao Yuzhen pondered in her divine consciousness. The Dao sword immortal drifted out of the pond, and Chen Yendu and a group of old farmers waited for a long time by the edge of the pond. When did the old farmer see such a formation? Heard the cry from far to near, finally, a figure came out from the pool. In their simple worldview, it was probably the immortals on Qingcheng Mountain, so they knelt down and kowtowed. Immortals. I saw real immortals. Zhao Yuzhen had never been exposed to this situation before, so she immediately switched to Zhao Yuzhen. Zhao Yuzhen saw 4 or 5 old farmers kneeling and worshipping him, feeling uneasy. He immediately stepped on the ground with both feet and helped them up one by one. You don't need to kneel, you don't need to kneel. I'm about the same age as your grandson, he said. Several old farmers were afraid of getting dirty on their bodies, and they kept dodging Zhao Yuzhen's Taoist robe. However, Zhao Yuzhen didn't care at all and helped them up one by one, saying, Gentlemen, the hands of farming and raising people are not dirty. He's a good fairy, a good fairy. The old farmers stood up and immediately huddled together to talk. Zhao Yuzhen couldn't correct their habitual thinking for a while and a half, so she had no choice but to turn to Chen Yendu and ask, have we all agreed on the price? Returning to Junior Marshal Uncle, we have agreed that one person can earn 50 yuan a day. Chen Yendu bowed and said. Ladies and gentlemen, is 50 yuan enough? Zhao Yuzhen turned to ask a group of old farmers. The old farmers pushed and shoved, and finally selected an older and more authoritative old man to reply, Thank you, little immortal. 50 big suns are enough for us to work under the sun for half a day. So, how long have you been working in the fields, gentlemen? Zhao Yuzhen knew that the immortal technique of taking gentle steps on the water was difficult to explain for a while, so she followed them. I've been farming for over 30 years, said the leader, looking at the others. Everyone else has been around for about 20 years, and the shortest one is over 10 years. Zhao Yuzhen nodded and asked, Uncle, what kind of food do you like to grow? The old farmer group negotiated and finally took the lead, saying, We are in a low area, and even the heavens have enough rain, and there are not as strong winds. Except for the frequent floods in the Minjiang River, the rest of the days are still comfortable. So I like to plant some long-stalked rice. The pole is long, isn't it, that the ability to resist lodging is not very good? Zhao Yuzhen asked, If there are too many years, it will collapse. The leading old man scratched his head awkwardly and said, To be honest with you, little immortal, the rice we planted has not yet been able to bend the rice stem, so I hope it can be taller. When it comes to harvesting, there is no need to bend down so much. Zhao Yuzhen nodded. In the past, this place was a land of abundance in history books, but now it needs to plant some tall stems with few spikes. Zhao Yuzhen thought again and asked, Father, look at the Qingcheng Mountain, is there a place suitable for farming? For example, here is near Longqiu, with abundant water. The leading old farmer hurriedly said, No, this is the mansion of the heavenly masters. How can we farm? Zhao Yuzhen smiled and said, Don't worry, father. I can be the master. This Qingcheng mountain land is good for farming. You can tell me that there is no cow's nose that can embarrass you. Chen Yendu nodded beside him. The father.in.law, who was in charge, looked around and said to the sword immortal of Lao Zhao, "This place is not good. The mountains are too high to look at. In addition, the surroundings are covered with tall trees and trees, which cover the sun. The young seedlings can only be sun-dried at noon, and the ears are very withered. Moreover, other families can harvest them. The millet you planted here has not yet withered." Zhao Yuzhen nodded and said, "Then cut down the trees around you." "Little immortal, it's not possible either," said the father.in.law. "On the mountain, there is less soil and more stones, and besides, there are so many trees to be raised. The shallow mud is already not fertile, and trees can take root deeper. Our food doesn't have that ability. According to my father.in.law's suggestion, if we were to open a field, where should we be? If the little immortal wants to open a field, he must go down, the higher up, the colder. The temperature below the mountain is good, the sun is enough, and the fertility of the soil is also good." "Junior uncle." Chen Yendu spoke out. "Maybe." Zhao Yuzhen raised her hand. "It's not necessarily out of the boundary of Qingcheng Mountain." Then he turned to several old farmers and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, let's go down the mountain all the way. You watch and choose, and if you have any suitable ones, just tell me directly. If it's not possible today, I'm afraid we'll have to trouble everyone tomorrow and the day after tomorrow." "It's easy to say," the old farmers chattered. Zhao Yuzhen's aura rose and he could only hear someone behind him exclaiming, "Immortal! Immortal magic!" After not taking a few steps, I only heard a few blunt instrument smashes on the ground. It turned out that an old man who had been watching Zhao Yuzhen fly in anger tripped his feet left and right, causing a series of chain collapses like bowling bottles. Zhao Yuzhen turned around helplessly, and saw the old farmers quickly get up and chatter, "What a fairy! Go back and talk to my little one. His master has really opened his eyes to flying immortals today." Chen Yendu was grateful that she was not too close to the junior martial uncle. Otherwise, he will be the unlucky one. Zhao Yuzhen thought for a moment and decided to fall to the ground and walk step by step, otherwise she wouldn't know what it would be like. After all, there won't be any entertainment activities at this meeting. The evening at the foot of the mountain is to blow the lights and draw wax early, in order to save money on lighting. So many dolls tell stories to the dolls and pass on gossip among the neighbors. These are all important entertainment activities. In addition, 3 people become tigers. They are still immortals in Qingcheng Mountain. Out of Qingcheng Mountain, it is uncertain what kind of demon it is. It's so embarrassing to get caught up in a fight to defeat demons and eliminate demons. Everyone walked down the mountain, and Zhao Yuzhen had a natural physique. Being active was not a big deal, and the old farmers were also accustomed to doing rough work. Although they were getting older, they looked very tough and walked briskly under their feet. Only nephew Chen Yendu, at the age of 12 or 13, seemed unable to catch up and was left far behind by the crowd. The mountains are becoming gentler and wider in front of us. As evening approaches, we can still vaguely see smoke from cooking. As we approach the foot of the mountain, the old farmers suddenly stop for a discussion. Zhao Yuzhen asked, "Is there a suitable place?" The father.in.law, who was leading the way, pointed to the wasteland on the side of the mountain road with his fists in a row and said, "Little immortal, this place is overgrown with weeds, which proves that the land is fertile enough. There are no big trees around to cover the sun, but it is difficult to obtain water. After burning the land and taking care of it, it must be another good field." Zhao Yuzhen nodded. "Little immortal, a few of us can open up the fields in about 2 to 3 days. Okay. Thank you all, gentlemen and uncles," Zhao Yuzhen said. "I have one more thing to trouble you all, which is the grain seeds. Can you please allocate some for me? I'll buy it for 10 copper coins per kilogram. 50 grandsons a day have already taken advantage of the immortals. The grains are all kept by the family and are not worth much money. How dare you accept the wealth of the immortals, said the leading father. In law. That's not possible, 1 yard is 1 yard. Zhao Yuzhen said, help me open up 1 acre of land tomorrow. It's getting late today, so everyone should go home first. Otherwise, I'm afraid we'll have to walk at night. Bring your tools and come back tomorrow. The old farmers quickly bowed and said yes. They walked home together in groups of 3 or 5. Until no one was visible, Zhao Yuzhen stood up from where she had been squatting. Zhao Jianxian, let's start work now. Zhao Yuzhen murmured silently. Dao Jianxian's sword was even used to weed 1 day, Zhao Jianxian said helplessly, taking over his body and walking into the wasteland, waving his hand. A red light shot out from the insect's second residence, and the spring water sword flew straight to the hands of the Dao sword immortal. Why wait for them to leave before tidying up? Asked the Dao sword immortal, who was holding onto his back with spring water. Your Dao heart is clear, Zhao Yuzhen replied lazily. I don't want to explain immortality or anything. It's too idealistic. The corner of the young man's mouth showed a smile, clearly indicating, I knew it. Yen Du's nephew, you don't need to be so far away, Zhao Yuzhen said. I'll keep an eye on it. I'll only use my sword once. With the grass at his waist, Zhao Yuzhen asked, why hasn't the Dao sword immortal produced his sword yet? It was as if a bamboo pole had swung open the water, and suddenly, with Dao sword immortal as the center, the wild grass fell on its back. Chen Yendu rubbed his eyes hard, regretting why he didn't stand closer before and couldn't even see how the Dao sword immortal wielded his sword. The spring water cuts through the sunset and dyes half of the sky red, like a bird released from a cage, happily circling in the sky and stopping at the feet of the Dao sword immortal. Yen Du's nephew, let them turn over the ground tomorrow. The wild grass has been dried and burned on the spot, allowing the ash of the plants and trees to be fully mixed in the ground. Chen Yendu could only helplessly say, yes, senior uncle. Zhao Yuzhen stepped onto the spring water and said, by the way, nephew Yendu, I don't plan to take you. If you hurry back to the mountain now, you may still be able to catch dinner. As the word Shan dissipated in the wind, Chen Yendu ran vigorously towards the dining hall. You're arguing that he's too far away from me, Zhao Yuzhen, who was in the sea of consciousness, lay on the recliner and poked through Dao Jianxian's careful thoughts. This is Uncle Shi's experience with him, said Dao Jianxian without any panic. Okay, Zhao Yuzhen said, resting her hands behind her head and thinking to herself, the imperial sword flying, fake, has been achieved. Can we flip the ground next time? No, weeding is already very embarrassing. You are noble, you are 1080p. The next day, several old men, carrying sickles and oxen, arrived at the wasteland and were greatly surprised. I used to hear that there was a young immortal named Yugong who wanted to move mountains. He was moved by the heavens and sent 2 warriors to help him move the mountains overnight. We met this little immortal, Yugong reincarnated, and the heavens also sent immortals to cut the weeds overnight, said one of the younger farmers. Chaotic behavior. The authoritative old man selected yesterday said, that's a true immortal. How could it be the reincarnation of Yugong? You're chewing your tongue behind the immortal, and you're not afraid that the immortal will take you away with a thunderbolt. Everyone burst into laughter. The person who said Zhao Yuzhen was Yugong was anxious and said, how could it be that immortals are so good that they wouldn't bully mortals? Finally, he asked the old man who was the leader not confident. Zhang Bo, do you think so? The little fairy won't hit me with thunder. The old man who led him kicked him and said, hurry up and start working. Do your job beautifully, so that the immortals won't chop you. The farmer hurriedly went to gather the weeds, spread them out to dry, and muttered something in his mouth, unsure of what to say. At this point, Zhao Yuzhen's farming career was plowed by farmers driving cows. Chapter 10. Heart Technique of Lihuo Formation, I'll teach you how to use it. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This translator is experiencing an error, please try another translator.